Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Revelation Seminar. I'm Arthur Mendenhall, the host. My co-host are Cherie McGee
Hi, everybody.
and Keith Campbell.
Hello.
We're going to continue with our topic of discussion, which is love or pretense. I'm going to allow Keith to sort of give us a recap of what we have been discussing for the last 2 weeks.
This week on last week on the show, for the past 2 weeks, what we've been covering is the topic love or pretense. But this is concerning parents and children, or parent and children. We've talked about relationships, and I guess the number one thing in a relationship, what happens when a child realizes that the parent does not love him? What happens when a parent realizes that you are not in love with the child that you produced? And we've talked about some of the reasons why people have children. We had one called the Jones syndrome, where you just seen somebody else do it, so you decided to do it, like a monkey. Then we've had it where people have done it because of unprotected sex. And
Pressure from the family.
Yeah, pressures from the family. And we've talked about just different reasons why people have children outside of the boundaries of what we interpret love to be. And so we are going to start with our third discussion. And basically, we're going to talk the reason why parents may not love their children.
Okay, and we sort of start, the first reason is why? Special needs?
Special needs.
Yeah, special needs, for instance, I think we sort of briefly talked about this during our last episode, is that if you may have a child that is mentally challenged, physically challenged, that can be sort of demanding.
And like you said before, they may not be equipped to handle or to know how to love.
Well, I think the first thing that comes up with parents, because parents are very strange creatures. Even when you have normal ones, you want them to be super normal. You want them to be super smart. You don't want them to be the only one in class who received a D. You don't want them to be the only one out of step on the stage. But when you're dealing with children with special need, I think the first thing that most people who would have children like that, who are not grounded, they are ashamed.
Yeah, I think so.
They're ashamed.
That a special needs child can come from them.
Right.
They feel it is their
Right,
fault.
and then that other people recognize that this person that this person has special needs.
And so then you had number two, which was basically unplanned pregnancies, which we talked about.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as an unplanned pregnancy. If you lay down without protection, you plan for it.
And if you don't realize sex is for reproducing then you shouldn't be having sex.
That's right, because you're ignorant.
Well, not necessarily for reproduce.
Well, if you don't get, that's what happens.
And basically, when we really pay attention to our humanness,
right,
that's the number one reason. Now, we made it number one because you're freaky, or because you
for procreation. So
number one is basically to have children, to keep the species going. That's the number one reason. But most of the time, we don't put that as number one. We put that as
it's recreation,
number 3 or 4
not
down,
procreation.
right?
Not
So,
procreation.
So then you have you have number 3. Sydney, you can switch to that for us.
The child possesses characteristics of his or her estranged parent.
now that, yes, now I do believe that, because I remember one day I was sitting in church here in New Orleans, and I can't really say if this really was the case, but it was just strange that I noticed that this mother was sitting. We were sitting on the balcony, and the mother was sitting with her 2 kids, and she had a son and she had a daughter, and the daughter was being sort of unruly as well, and the son was too, but she was harsher
On the girl.
on the child, on the boy,
On the boy?
rather than on the daughter. And I felt that I sat there for about 5 minutes just observing that when the little boy would do something, she would smack him. But the little girl would do something, she wouldn't smack him.
Well, that's because we're sugar and spice and everything nice.
Oh, that's because most of the time when you have a situation with females, and you have male children and female children present, it's the male children who get the attention. This has been a study that's done in school.
That's why I was surprised to hear that it was the male child who was getting smacked.
Well, I'm not surprised, because basically he's the one who's receiving the loving or the attention.
Getting smacked
Think
around.
Think about it, Cherie McGee.
Alrighty.
Now, I was raised in a house of 7. The first 4 were atrocious. They didn't learn. They didn't want to learn. They had bad behavior. The last three made honor rolls. They were always in civic events. But who you think got all the attention?
The bad ones.
The bad ones. So I mean, the thing is that a lot of times, see, we'll sit there and look and say, "Oh, she don't say nothing to the girl. She must love that girl." But that boy, she always, well, you're going to discipline the one you love.
Well, I was thinking more on the lines that because we have had that conversation where there are times when the mother, the boyfriend or the husband left the mother with the child, and she became upset and annoyed and all this animosity.
She takes it out on
and
the
she
child.
takes it out on the son. That's what I was thinking. I could have been off base, but I was thinking perhaps this could have been the case.
Well, I'd sit and I watch people, and basically, I mean, we see it on the Super Nanny, we see it on Swapping Wives. It's always one child who never gets any attention, while the other ones who are a little more flamboyant, a little more get, they get all of it.
Attention.
So the thing is that I think a lot of times because maybe we don't know human nature, we just assume that the one who's getting attention is the one who's getting the love. And the ones who's sitting back is the one not getting the love.
Her popping him in the back, because she was really popping him. And I saw the little girl, she was really annoying the little boy. She really was.
She probably felt like mama loves you
Yeah,
anyway.
mama loves you back. So, I mean, the thing is that,
But I was saying that by her popping him, you consider that to be love? I mean,
because that's the way some people do it. I've seen some people just come up and just do that. And then other children, they ain't studying them. So what you saying?
Hey, you.
Hey, you. And so, I mean, the thing is that we have to, sometimes like the things are not what they seem.
Because
but
I've
then
seen it.
Flagrantly, what you see is what you see, and it really, really is real.
I've seen it with my own eyes, especially single women with little girls. They pretty much ignore the little girls, especially if they have a little boy. Or you may hear this come out of their mouth. You're too old for that. I've heard that when they're disciplining your children, you're too old for that. But the little boys can pretty much do whatever they want.
Right. So I mean, I think with people. When we're talking about, they possess characteristics of their strange parent, it's really not about the child. It's about
the parent, the other parent
you laid down with.
Right.
And like I said, it comes back once again when you are anticipating mating. You should really look at who you're looking at. If you don't like women with big, big hips, and your mother-in-law has big, big hips, well, there's a chance your children are going to have big, big hips. And I've seen people.
And further down the line, your wife will too.
And so, I mean, and so the thing is, people are just lusting themselves into these relationships, but they're not really clearly looking at, well, what do I want down the line? You know what I'm saying? What do I want in a child? I want smart children. Then you need to get you a smart partner.
So it's important.
And make sure you're on the smart side.
So it's important to decide. It is important for you to think about to sift through your, pass through, sit down, digest, think about, contemplate on what you really want. Contemplate on what you want. If you're going to make a baby,
make it like a cake. Put the right ingredients.
So that once this child is born, there will be no room for pretense.
Right.
It would just be absolute love.
And it'll be a thing of where
it'll be easier
to love this child. Because, like I said, it's like taking a child where both parents have the sickle cell trait. Well, okay, you just created something. You created a child now who has a sickle cell disease.
So you're saying we should look at medical records?
You should do a credit check. That's the first thing. Because if you
it's like applying for a job.
This is a job. It's your life. You see what I'm saying? This is your life. And this is what this person who you laying in bed with will affect your life for the rest of your life, whether you're with them or not.
Because whatever yes, that's true.
Because if he a monkey here, he's gonna be a monkey in the street, and you still connected to him by this little monkey you just had.
And not only that, Cherie and Mr. Campbell, is that if you have a child with this person, and even if you separate,
you're connected.
You're still connected.
That's right.
And even if you don't have a child, depending on how the relationship ended and what transpired during that period you were together, may have an impact on you once you've separated.
And that leads us right into the next one, Sydney.
Yeah. Stepchild. And
ooh, you all heard this treat me like a redheaded stepchild. Well, I've heard.
Like Cinderella?
Well, I mean, the thing is that you just married the mother. You didn't marry the children.
Or vice versa. You just married the dad.
Right. And so the thing is that, and like I said, but if you're not centered, you will fall in lust. And you will think that child is just an extra piece of baggage that you can handle. Not love, handle. Or if that person did not take the correct step when they left their former relationship to make sure that the relationship between them and the child is firm. You see what I'm saying? And settled and connected. And then they bring you in before they even had a chance to settle down. Because, see, I am of the belief, for every year that you were with a person, you should take 4 months
To do what?
to get yourself together. If you're married for 20 years, you should take 2 or 3 years to get yourself together because you scarred. And you're bringing it with it if you're not dealing with it. You see what I'm saying? The thing is that people they just want to connect with somebody else immediately and don't realize I'm still connected with you.
Right.
Because I have not severed. No, you may not be there, but I have not severed what's in me or what you left in me. See, a lot of people don't realize when they're married to people, or you're shacking, or you're in a love relationship, whatever your relationship is. If they've been in your life for more than 6 months, they leaving something in you.
Yeah.
Right. Because every day you evolve.
Right.
You're becoming brand new every day. So
Right.
you have someone with you, of course. And the two shall become one. Didn't I say that before?
Yeah. And the thing is, but then it becomes 3. Because it's you, he, and he. Or you, she, and she. Baby mama drama.
So,
Baby daddy drama.
okay.
Well, all right.
All right then.
So once you have children in your life, okay, so we're moving on here. So once you do have children in your life, whether they're your stepchildren or they are your children through birth, how important is it to bond with that child?
It's very important to bond. We see a lot of Sydney Screen.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people in relationships, or I've seen and am in relationship with children whose, you can come back to us and say it, with children who mothers left them with the grandmother, or mothers left them, with another relative. And so they're with this relative and they bond with that relative.
With that relative, yeah.
And then something happens to that relative, so the child is sent back to
the parent.
And he has they like strangers in the street, and then they're looking at him, well, why don't he love me like he's supposed to? Just like anything can happen.
Right.
Well, he's not bonding with you because during the bonding time, you weren't there.
And bonding is very important, especially for children, because you have a defenseless person who is dependent on an adult for his livelihood, for his well-being.
Right.
So you have to be able to trust that person. So if you don't have that there,
it establishes connection.
Yes, all of us have to have suckling. You have to suckle off of something. And some children, unfortunately, even while they're in home with a parent, because the parent ignores them or the parent has other issues going on with the parent who they don't get along with, so you're so busy arguing and fighting and cussing with this person who you're in a relationship with that the children get pushed out, so the child is just sitting there. Children begin to act out because they want attention.
Right.
That's why children act out. They want someone to give them some attention. But what happens is you don't give them attention, you get more frustrated and you start pushing them further apart. So there is no bonding. And then they'll have the nerve to ask the question, well, why you treat me that way? Because I didn't bond with you.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like a person in the street to me.
You may have the name mother.
But you're not.
Yeah, and it takes a while because I was reared by my grandparents, and of course my grandparents, they have passed away now. And I'm 40-some years old. And after, during the course of her life, I had bonded with her. And I really didn't have any, at first, I had hatred towards my parents because I didn't understand why they would give me up. And this went on until I was maybe in my mid-30s, until I decided to sit down and discuss it with them, and then it was explained to me how everything panned out. And but my point is that there was no bond, and I didn't really love them. I had some distaste for them. But after I sat down and discussed things with them, I sort of come to the understanding, okay, well, I understand why they did what they did. And the hatred or the animosity that I had towards them just sort of diminished. But this is after I'm in my 30s.
Right.
And she had, my grandmother reared me from 6 months old. You know, this is a long time.
And so, and then the thing is, you never really bond with them. They become aunties, like aunties, uncles, but you never bond with them. You know what I'm saying? Because the bonding process is over.
Right.
As a child, yeah, because I think it is when you're a child, I think you bond differently than when you're an adult.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so different.
Well, did that affect your perception of the world? Did it affect your relationships?
I think so. I think it gave grounds, or it was a foundation for me for having so much hatred and anger inside. I think that contributed to my anger problem and hatred and other issues as well.
Because it depends on the person who they leave you with. They can be sweet as gold, but if you got there, well, your mom ain't no good. Well, you know, or if it's a thing of whenever the name of the parent comes in who left, it's like, you know, or just people that go completely silent. Then of course you begin to fill in the blank.
Yeah. Then, and not only that, this is sad, but when your relatives start saying negative things about your parent as well, that makes the situation even worse, because you already have this ill feeling towards them, and then relatives on the side are saying ugly things as well. So that just adds to it.
Okay, Sid, can you go to discussion number 5? Because this is what we were talking about.
What course of action should a parent or parents take when they realize they haven't any love for their children? Pretend?
Well, I think it depends on. I think it depends on what age you are. You know, because I think it depends on your age, because if you're small,
You need a lie of love?
Well, children know it.
I don't know. When you are a child,
they know it. They know it when you just ain't got nothing for them. I mean, they know adults who just don't have anything for them. I think that pretending only works for a person who's pretending.
Oh.
It's like love. If you pretend to love, you just fooling yourself. So I mean, the thing is that pretense is like anything else. Eventually, just begins to lift like a fog, to where, because your actions are going to tell where you're at. See, that's like people say, "Oh, he loved me, and we just having good sex and he beating your head every other night."
I don't know, but if you have a 6-year-old child and all of a sudden you say, "Come here, baby," and whatever his name may be, Glass, I don't love you. That's sort of rough.
Well, the thing is that you say, what should be the course of action parents take when they realize they haven't any love for their child?
Right. I'm saying.
And sometimes it's the thing is that, like I said, what's your love you're talking about? You talking about feelings, or you talking about love as a parent?
You realize I don't want this. I never wanted this child. It came from unprotected sex.
Well, all of us was in that. I mean,
well, I'm just saying.
Some of us would. Most of us were born in that situation. You just hear because you hear. You see what I'm saying? The thing is that, first of all, most people are not going to admit to themselves that they don't love their children.
Well, that's sort of,
even though their actions say it, they're not going to admit it.
I mean, what parent? Well, I don't know now. There are some parents out there that give up their kids, and they.
But they say, why they say I gave you up? Because
I wanted you to
have better, and I loved you. So I mean, the thing, there are very few people who come to that realization that.
Well, is that a bad thing then? You know, you cannot provide for this child at all, not with money or love or anything, and you give them to someone who you think
you just lying.
Is that an act of love?
Just lying.
Is that an act of love?
No, it ain't no act of love. You just lying, because first of all, you know, if there are other cases where people had children, they on welfare.
But
hold a minute, let me finish. And you can be on welfare till you get off welfare. But you can't use that as a reason for not keeping the child.
But if you don't love this child, that's what we're saying. If you don't love the child, should you keep the child? Because you even just said a few minutes ago that the child is going to realize it. Now, if you keep this child and this child realizes that,
is it better for the child to grow up in a loving family?
What's a loving family? Like, what's a dysfunctional family? I think all of those terms are relative. I think children are stronger than we think they are. I think a child is able to handle, say, listen here, baby, Because if a person comes to a place where they don't love a child, it's not really about that child. They just may be cold. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know how to love you. You see what I'm saying? I think that's what a person, because once you come to a place when you say, I don't love this child, then I think the next process is, why don't I? For a thinking person who's on that truth level, like you say. And then you're going to deal with that before you even deal with the child, because you're going to realize it's you, it's not him.
So
that goes to
yeah,
the
on our
second
screen,
point.
yeah, on our screen we're having here what?
Discuss the matter.
Yeah, discuss the matter with. Should you discuss the matter with a professional? Should you discuss the matter with the child? Should you discuss the matter with your husband? All of a sudden, you realize, you know,
Discuss it with yourself. Talk to yourself. If you come to a very real place, and I'm talking about grounded love, a very real place that I just don't like this child, and he is more responsibility than I thought, and I don't like being a father, I don't like being a mother, because eventually you'll begin to hear while you're talking to yourself the reasons why you're saying what you're saying, and then you begin to deal with, because I don't think people talk to themselves not to deal with it. We talk to other people, we don't want to deal with it. But when you're talking to yourself and you're just being in a very real place, you begin to say, well, what can I do to rectify this?
What can you do?
I guess seek professional counseling.
Get a husband.
Yeah.
But I think if it's with two parents, it's going to be easy, because you can tell your mate, well, he's not really my personality, and I would prefer that you discipline them, and that you would take the role. I take the role with little Susie, but you take a more active role
But
with
wouldn't
little
that
Bobby.
create more problems? Like, well, your mom's child, and well, your dad's child.
It's better than being nobody's.
And then if you just have one
I
child,
don't know about that.
What's that poem you wrote?
Nobody's daughter.
Child. Right. It's better than being nobody's.
No, I don't know about that.
You somebody. You may be your mama's or your daddy, but then we need to just be real, and I have to really think. If a child loves sports and you hate sports, you ain't gonna be much help to him.
No, you're not.
Both of y'all gonna be miserable, because he know you hate it, you know hate it. But if daddy loves sports, problem solved. If this child is artsy crafty and you're logic analytical, and you see that he's a Republican, you're a Democrat. But daddy's a Democrat.
At 6 years of age.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Well, you do begin to see other children. Some children are very conservative and some are very liberal.
Yeah, I agree. They do have personalities.
You're right. So, I mean, so the thing is that, and what we're talking about is being grounded in real love, not feelings and your insignificant self and your issues, but the issues that's sitting before you. You have waned through it, and you realize there's a problem between me and this child, and we do not bond. I am not his type of parent. But like I said, if you have another parent, more than likely he is, because it took two of you to make it. And more than likely, when you talk to the parent, he'll tell you the same thing that's going on between you that went on between his parents.
Right.
So discuss the matter with the parent, and then I guess the parent will decide whether or not they're going to discuss it with the child. And then depending on the outcome of that, depending on what they decide,
Give them away.
Seek professional counseling, perhaps.
And sometimes that can be the answer.
What about seeking professional counseling?
Sydney, going back to the screen.
I go to parent, because we have
Parenting
up there
classes.
seeking professional counseling, parenting
classes.
Have a grandparent rear the child, which is a custom or culture in the black culture,
Right.
where the grandparent has more time to give that child what he needs, and that's fine, as long as he's somebody's child.
Because I was reared by my grandparents.
And don't
as I said earlier.
resent because grandma got him on the right track. Then I want him back. You take your knucklehead, sit down, and let that woman and help her. That's right. Help her to do what she has to do.
Yeah, I guess we have need to close out our show. Yeah. Our time is up. You can tune in next time, and we will continue this conversation. But as I always say, love yourself for who you are, but strive to grow beyond your comfort zone.